Welcome back to Mr. Sam English Tales, the place where classic stories come alive with powerful life lessons. Today, I'm bringing you one of the most famous short stories ever written, The Necklace by Guy de Maupassant. It's a tale of beauty, pride, and a shocking twist that reminds us why contentment is more valuable than jewels. Stay tuned until the end for the surprising moral of the story, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more timeless tales. A young French woman is the main character in The Necklace. This is one of the most famous short stories ever written. Matilda was a pretty and charming girl, but her family was very poor. She had no way of meeting a rich and distinguished man, so she married a clerk at the Department of Education. Matilda was unhappy and dissatisfied. She was unhappy because she thought she was born to enjoy the luxuries of life. She dreamed of wealth. She imagined herself looking for a beautiful house and wearing fine gowns and jewels. She longed for a rich and famous husband. Yet her own husband, Mr. Loisel, was hardly a rich and famous man. At dinner, he would tell her the lid of a pot and say, "Ah, you have no idea, darling, how much better a good stew is when you lift the lid yourself." She dreamed of elegant parties with expensive silverware, of rich gowns and beautiful people. She had fine clothes, no jewels, nothing. She dressed appropriately, but she was still poor. She disliked the worn furniture. She hated its dirty walls and worn-out chairs that she cleaned. She thought she deserved better. She had a friend, Jean Forrester, who was rich. They were classmates years ago, but Jean had married a rich man and lived in a large apartment. Matilda felt very poor when she returned to her own apartment. One evening, Mr. Loisel came home with a big smile on his face. "Here," he said, handing Matilda an envelope. "Here is something you will like." She eagerly opened the envelope and pulled out a little card. On it were printed these words: "The Minister of Education and his wife invite you to a party Monday evening, January 18th, at the minister's house." Instead of being delighted, as her husband had hoped, Matilda frowned and tossed the invitation on the table. "What do you expect me to do with that?" she asked. "But my dear," said Mr. Loisel, "I thought you would be pleased. You don't go out very often, and this is a special event. Many important people will be there. I had a lot of trouble getting the invitation." She looked at him and said, annoyed, "And what do you expect me to wear to the party?" He had not thought about that. "Why," he said, "what about the green dress you sometimes wear? That looks very pretty to me." "You could." He suddenly stopped talking, for he saw that his wife was beginning to cry. 2 tears moved slowly down her face. "What's the matter?" he asked anxiously. She wiped her wet cheeks with the back of her hand. "Nothing," she said, trying to calm herself. "Only, I have no gown, and therefore I cannot go to the party. Give your invitation to some friend whose wife has good clothes." He was hurt, but he said, "Let's see, Matilda. How much would a new gown cost? Something simple that you could wear again." Matilda thought about this for a few seconds. She was wondering how much she could ask for without frightening her thrifty husband. Finally, she said slowly, "I do not know the exact amount, but it seems to me that 400 francs would be enough." He turned pale. He had saved just that amount to buy a rifle so that he could go on a hunting trip with some friends next summer. But he said, "Very well. I will give you 400 francs, but make sure that you buy something very pretty." The party was only a few days away. Matilda's gown was ready, but she seemed sad, troubled, uneasy. Her husband said to her one evening, "What is the matter, Matilda? You've been acting so strangely the last few days," she said. "I am upset because I don't have any jewelry to wear with my gown. I shall look so poor. I think that I'd rather not go to the party after all." "Why don't you wear some flowers?" he suggested. "They're so fresh this time of the year. For 10 francs, you can get 2 or 3 beautiful roses." This did not convince her. "No," she said, "there's nothing more embarrassing than to look poor among women who are rich." He suddenly exclaimed, "How foolish we are. Ask your friend, Jean Forrester, to lend you some jewels. You know her well enough to do that. She'll be glad to do you a favor." "That's true," said Matilda, delighted. "I hadn't thought of that." The next day she went to her friend's house and explained the situation. Mrs. Forrester immediately opened a drawer, took out a large jewel box, and held it out to Matilda. "Choose, my dear," she said. Matilda saw some bracelets, a pearl necklace, and gold pins with jewels on them. She began to try on the jewelry in front of the mirror. Everything looked so beautiful, it was hard to make up her mind. Then, suddenly, she saw a magnificent diamond necklace. Her hands shook as she picked it up, and her heart pounded with desire as she held it against her neck. She looked at herself in delight. She turned to Mrs. Forrester. Could you lend me this necklace? Just this," she gasped. "Why, yes, certainly," said Mrs. Forrester. Matilda threw her arms around her friend and kissed her. Then she rushed home with her treasure. The day of the party came. Mrs. Loisel was a great success. She was the prettiest woman there, charming and smiling. Everybody noticed her and admired her. Many men danced with her. The Minister of Education himself asked who she was. Matilda danced and danced. It was after midnight when they got ready to go home. "Wait here while I call a cab," said Mr. Loisel. "It's chilly outside. You might catch a cold." But Matilda would not listen. She grabbed her old coat and rushed down the stairs. She did not want to be seen by the other women who were putting on their expensive furs. After a few minutes, they found a cab and headed for home. The cab stopped at their door, and they wearily went up to their apartment. Matilda kept thinking about the marvelous party. Then she realized, sadly, that the wonderful evening was over, all over. As for Mr. Loisel, he was thinking that he had to be at work by 10 o'clock. Matilda took off her coat in front of the mirror. She wanted to take one last look at herself in her gown. Suddenly she cried out in horror, "The necklace, the diamond necklace, it's gone." Before you continue listening, I would like you to think a little. Matilda was shocked to discover that the necklace was missing. Do you think that the Loisels will find the lost necklace? See if you are right. Don't forget to subscribe if you love this story. Matilda cried out in horror, "The necklace, the diamond necklace, it's gone." "What?" said Mr. Loisel. "That can't be. That's impossible." They looked in the folds of the gown, in the pockets of the coat. They looked everywhere, but they could not find the necklace. He asked, "Did you have it on when we left the party?" "Yes, I felt it as we came down the stairs." "But if you had lost it in the street, we would have heard it fall. It must be in the cab." "Yes, probably." "Did you notice the cab number?" "No." "Did you?" "No," she answered. They looked at each other, horrified. Finally, Mr. Loisel said, "I'll go back over the route we took. Maybe I can find it somewhere." He went out. Matilda walked to a chair, slumped down wearily in it, and waited in her evening gown. She did not have the strength to get up and go to bed. She was too exhausted to move or to think. Mr. Loisel came back at 7 o'clock. He had found nothing. He went to the police and to the cab companies. He put an advertisement in the newspapers, offering a reward. He did everything he could. Meanwhile, Matilda waited all day week with fear. Her husband came back in the evening. His face was hollow and pale. He had discovered nothing. "You must send a note to your friend," he said. "Thank her for lending you the necklace. Then say that you accidentally broke the lock on it and are having it repaired. That will give us more time." She did as he said. By the end of the week, they had lost all hope. Mr. Loisel shook his head and said, "We must find a way to replace the necklace." The next day they went from jeweler to jeweler, searching for a necklace that looked like the one they had lost. At last, in a large shop, they found a necklace that seemed just right. As far as they could remember, it looked exactly like the other one. The jeweler told them that it cost 40,000 francs, but he said that he was willing to sell it to them for 36,000. They begged the jeweler not to sell it for 3 days. Then they thought about how to raise the money. Mr. Loisel's father had left him a little. They would have to borrow the rest. He borrowed it, borrowing 1,000 francs here, 500 francs there. He signed notes and made deals. He agreed to pay high rates of interest. He risked everything without knowing if he could ever pay back the money. But finally, he had it, all 36,000 francs. He brought the money to the jeweler and left the shop with the diamond necklace. Matilda took the necklace back to Mrs. Forrester. Her friend said coldly, "You should have returned this to me sooner. I might have needed it." Mrs. Forrester hardly looked at the necklace. Matilda was relieved. What if Jean had realized that it was a different necklace? What would she have thought? What would she have said? Would she have believed that Matilda was a thief? From that day on, Matilda lived a life of poverty. She did not complain, however. It was necessary to pay back that huge debt. They would pay for it. They got rid of their housekeeper and moved to another apartment, one that was cheaper. They saved money every way they could. Matilda washed their clothing and did her own cooking. Every day, dressed in old clothes, she went to the market where she bargained and begged to save a few cents. She got a job doing heavy housework. She washed laundry and scrubbed floors and was busy from morning to night. Her husband worked late every night. He checked orders for some local merchants to earn a few extra francs. Each month, they paid back part of the money they owed. Life went on like this for 10 years. At the end of 10 years, they had paid off the whole debt. Mrs. Loisel looked old now. Her hair was messy, and her hands were rough and red. Her clothes were shabby, and she spoke in a loud, shrill voice as she mopped the floors with big pails of water. But once in a while, at the end of a long day, she sat looking out the window. She thought about the wonderful party she went to long ago. She remembered how beautiful she was and how everyone admired her. How would things have turned out if she had not lost that necklace? Who knows? Who knows? Life is strange and full of twists. One little thing can make all the difference. One Sunday, after a very hard week, Matilda decided to take a walk in the park. Suddenly, she saw a woman walking with a child. It was Jean Forrester, still young, still pretty. Matilda wondered if she should speak to her. Yes, certainly. Why not? And now that she had paid the debt, she would tell her what happened. Matilda approached her and said, "Good morning." Jean, her friend, did not recognize her and was startled that a stranger knew her first name. She said, "But I do not know you. You must be mistaken." "No, I am Matilda Loisel." her friend cried out, "Oh, Matilda, you look so different." "Yes, I have had some hard days since I saw you, some very hard days. And all because of you, because of me." "Why? Do you remember the diamond necklace that you lent me years ago?" "Yes." "What about it?" "Well, I lost it." "What do you mean?" "You returned it to me." "I returned another one exactly like it. It has taken us 10 years to pay for it. It was very difficult for us because my husband doesn't make a lot of money, but it's paid for now, and I'm glad that's over." Mrs. Forrester stared at Matilda and said very slowly, "You say that you bought a diamond necklace to replace mine?" "Yes." "You never noticed it then?" They were so alike, and Matilda smiled with a joy that was honest and proud. Mrs. Forrester was very moved. She gently took her friend's hands in her own as she spoke. "Oh, my dear Matilda," she said, "my necklace was fake. It was made out of glass. It was not worth more than 500 francs. The necklace has a surprise ending." A surprise ending means that the ending is different from what most readers expect. Sometimes, the author gives clues to help the reader guess the surprise. But in the necklace, the author does not provide strong clues or hints about how the story will end. Moral of the story. The story teaches us that vanity and the desire to impress others can lead to lifelong suffering. If Matilda had been content with what she had, she would not have wasted 10 years of her life repaying a debt for something that turned out to be worthless. In real life, many people fall into debt or unhappiness by chasing material possessions, comparing themselves with others, or pretending to be wealthier than they are. True happiness comes from gratitude, honesty, and contentment, not from jewels, clothes, or luxury.